COVID-19 pandemic is accelerating disruptive change and impacting almost every person on the planet. For many in the equipment finance industry, this means we are working from home. Love it or hate it, working remotely is the new normal for so many of us right now. But having this capability depends entirely on technology. I'm Rita Garwood, Editor-in-Chief of The Monitor. Joining me for this edition of our COVID-19 podcast are Deborah Reuben, who is CEO of Tomorrow Zone and a member of our editorial board, as well as Steve Siler, Chief Technology Officer of Stonebriar Commercial Finance, and Dan Feeney, CEO of North Star Leasing Company. Before we get started, I would like to thank today's podcast sponsor, IDS Asset Finance Technology. In these uncharted times, the last thing you need to worry about is the management of your front and back office systems. IDS Cloud was designed to take the worry out of system management and let you focus on building your business. IDS Cloud is a 100% scalable software as a service solution that allows you to pay only for what you use. All you need is an internet connection to have access to the equipment finance industry's leading origination and portfolio management solution. For more information, click on the banner below. So let's get started. Deb, as we were planning this podcast, you mentioned that you couldn't help but wonder if the coronavirus could be an accelerator of some positive disruption. Keeping an eye on the long term, what are some of the positive possibilities that could emerge from this pandemic?
Oh man, I think that there are a lot of them. You know, for sure, we're seeing a rise in adoption of cloud-based tools. When I started my business back in 2013, I started it with a cloud-first policy. And so I haven't really been disrupted by a lot of the recent events in respect to my ability to continue to get work done. So I think that adoption of cloud-based tools, we're definitely going to see a rise in that. But the other thing that I think about a lot isn't just the adoption in tools. We have to do that right now. That's short-term focus and that's just survival. But what are we learning from it? And how does long-term thinking play into it? And what I'm seeing is that people can adapt. Maybe people that you might have discounted in the past as, you know, being somebody that might adopt technology. We're finding that people are way more resilient and willing to change and adopt technology. And they're doing it because they have to right now. But think about where we might end up on the other side of this crisis. What if we imagine a future beyond this when we now have a choice of how we're going to work? Are we going to go backward? I have a hard time thinking that we will. I think that we're going to come out of this with a new normal. And I wonder if we're fundamentally raising the bar on what we consider the basic for business technology infrastructure for our industry. We have to go digital. It's no longer a nice to have. It's becoming an imperative. And business model innovation isn't a far off future thing. It's something that we're having to do now as conditions are continuing to change before our eyes. So I think that we're going to see that this crisis is accelerating things societally, economically, politically, in so many ways beyond even the technological accelerators that we've been talking about for a long time when we consider disruption. And so, you know, I think that we have a lot of people that are rapidly learning. We're rapidly implementing technology faster than ever before just to be able to get stuff done. And I think about our workforce now in equipment finance. We now have a whole set of people who have rapidly upskilled their ability to work remotely. And what sort of possibilities does this open up for how we might serve customers in the future?
Yeah, there's so much to think about there. Steve and Dan, both of you moved your portfolio management to the cloud before this crisis hit. How quickly were your teams able to adapt to the challenges?
I'll go first. This is Dan. Friday, March 13th, we decided to implement a stay-at-home and policy. And we had just changed in November and December, we had gone to IDS cloud-based software. We've been a customer of theirs for 30-something years. North Star Leasing is a 40-year-old business. And on Friday afternoon, you also have to keep in mind that North Star Leasing does not have an IT department. And on Friday afternoon, and we had just upgraded in December, all of our CPUs with 2 or 3 monitors for everybody at their desk. Everybody worked from our headquarters here in Burlington, Vermont. And so on Friday, that day, when I decided we were going to start to move from home, I was able to call our outsourced IT department. And by Monday morning, March 16th, we had the capability to work remotely, all 35 employees. And unfortunately, that meant that some of our employees, all of them, had to carry their telephone, their desktop telephone, because the CPU goes through the phone, and their two monitors to work from home. But we were operational on at 8 o'clock on Monday morning, and that would have never occurred if we had not committed to the technology. I wish we had bought everybody laptops, but in hindsight, I guess I could have done all things better. But we're fully operational, and we basically didn't miss a step.
Wow. Steve, how about you?
So about a third of our team was already remote. So that's in contrast to how Dan was structured. So since we had a lot of people remote already, there was little change in how we've done our business, especially how our customer facing team works. So like sales and credit still call out on customers, and they're able to handle any volatility in these types of market conditions. So also we've had the foresight to do purchase laptops from the beginning. So where remote work needs to take place, we're proactively prepared for that type of connectivity. So we've set up our network drives so people can access them from anywhere they need to. It doesn't necessarily need to have a physical workplace environment.
Great. Well, from a portfolio management perspective, how has the cloud impacted your business, Dan?
The cloud impacted it, or the COVID-19? So when we realized we had a problem across the country, it slowly started with, well, it was just restaurants and bars and entertainment centers and stuff like that. Then we realized that we have 4,500 lease contracts in our portfolio. We hold 100% of the paper, and that's made up of 3,800 different customers with about 80%. So it's about 20% of our customers have multiple leases with us. I made the decision in March, I guess it was on Thursday, the 12th, that small businesses had to help small businesses. And so I called a board meeting, and we approved the deferral of all $3 million, $2.7 million of April payments for everybody back on March 16th, because if you don't have money, how are you going to pay for it? The ability for us to be able to use the technology that was in front of us and be able to sort and slice and dice our portfolio by industry, by location, by city, by state, by monthly payment, we were able to make a decision rather rapidly. I was able to talk to my board and my bank and be able to offer to our customer base within a relatively early part of this pandemic, the ability for our customers, to defer at least for 30 days. And we were getting phone calls back from our customers basically in tears. They would call up asking for forgiveness on their loans, and we basically deferred. And by the end of the conversation, we had customers who were just so thankful. We basically have got customers for life. We will come through this, and the ability for us to use the information on the cloud and do it in such an efficient manner, it wouldn't have been able to be done if we all had to be in our physical location. So it's been critical.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Steve, what's your experience been like?
So the way the cloud has impacted our business is a little bit different. We've, like Dan, I'm sure, we operate with a lean team. We've always looked at technology to augment the processes with highlighting our team specialties. So my answer focuses more on the technology stack, not what's happening around with current events. So about 15, 20 years ago, when a lot of the management team was still at AIG, myself included, we saw value in outsourcing business functions. And one of those was portfolio management. And we recently did an upgrade to that portfolio management solution to fully cloud-based. And it's been able to allow us to nimbly make decisions like that, but also allow additional systems to connect to it. So we have a cohesive way to make those decisions as well, and a way to report on it.
Great. We may have listeners out there who are not equipped to work from home. What are the specific cloud-based applications in a typical equipment finance company should have to make this work? Any of you could answer that if you are willing to.
Sure, Rita. I can speak to this one. I've got lots of experience working remotely. I've been doing it for over 12 years, formerly as a software company product manager, working with a virtual team all over the world. And now in my own business, I'm working with a virtual team and with customers remotely. There are so many applications to choose from, a myriad of apps. So I'm hesitant to make any prescriptive recommendations without a diagnosis of the problems that you want to solve or the outcomes that you want to achieve. So you have to think about that first. But depending on what it is that you want to achieve, here are a few things to think about. Are you dealing with the access to basic productivity, the ability to create and work with spreadsheets, documents, and whatnot? Security is paramount, and access to secure file sharing and storage is definitely a consideration. And then how are you going to manage workflow and business processing itself? This could be your core systems, your CRM, your project and product management tools. So there are a lot of categories that you can think of for cloud-based technology to consider, but hyper relevant to where we are right now and the rapid shift to remote work. If you want to effectively collaborate online with your team, there are a handful of minimum capabilities that you need. First of all, communication. And that's not just the ability to communicate in real time. A lot of options for that, Zoom, Skype, so many to choose from, but also the ability to communicate asynchronously. How are you going to stay in touch before, after, and between those live sessions? I use Slack with my team. A lot of people are using email, HipChat, Chatter, other forums. And then there's content sharing. How are you going to share your files and access the files that you need as a team? And then how are you going to stay organized? What are you going to use for organization capabilities? There are a lot of tools for that. Trello, Asana, a simple shared spreadsheet. I use Airtable with one of my clients. And then the other capability is going visual. It's really hard as a team to be on the same page when you don't see the same page. So shared visuals can be critical when you're collaborating remotely. And there are a variety of tools for that. Video conferencing, there's online whiteboards, all sorts of tools for that. And then the last capability is non-technical. You've got to be able to design and facilitate an effective meeting, because today in this situation, no one can afford to waste time. So if you're going to be getting people together, running a remote meeting, you're going to have to take your planning up just another notch and, think through what is the agenda? How are you going to keep people engaged? How are you going to check on progress together? And never forget the people on the other side of the screen or the phone call.
Can I add to that, Deb?
Absolutely.
So like with the meeting portion, making sure that you have a concise agenda before you start the meeting, that everybody can be on the same page. Not everybody likes to see a surprise out there.
Mm-hmm.
And any tool that can augment your business can be daunting from the get-go, but there's a lot of places and a lot of information out there that you can leverage to inform yourself before you get started. Everybody seems to have an opinion about how to get started, but like being able to educate yourself, I think, is very important. I'd also like to add that just trying to make sure that you're enhancing and pulling forward your business process through any tool becomes very, very important as well. So being able to take what somebody's already doing and reduce the amount of time that they're spending on that, while also getting data out of it so you can report on it on a later time, is also very worthwhile.
Dan, anything you'd like to add to that one?
No, I think they summarized it pretty well. We have just to reiterate that you need to know who's on the other side of the screen with you. Not everybody is up to speed on technology. And you sort of have to make sure that you're delivering your information to the person who knows the least. And so, you have to do it in a very professional manner. And then we have a little definition of a meeting here at North Star called a meeting is defined as a gathering of 2 or more people for a specific purpose and for a specific amount of time. And the purpose of a meeting can be, especially given what's going on now, is just a simple, how are we all doing? And it goes a long way when folks who up until 2 weeks ago would look over a cubicle and talk to everybody and you'd find out what's going on. And 2 weeks later, they're working, on a dining room table or something. It's really critical right now to make sure management, especially, needs to make sure that they touch base with all their with all their employees and make sure they understand the technology and help them achieve success, because we'll all get through this. It's a little bit of a challenge right now.
Yeah, definitely. So even with the right technology at our fingertips, it can be hard to maintain the same focus that we might have in an office environment, like you're saying, Dan. Deb, can you share some strategies that could help our listeners adapt to working from home?
Sure. I've been doing this for a long time, and I might be a little nerdy about this, but I've been working on hacking my ability to focus for the past couple of years and just trying a lot of different things, because we live in an increasingly distracting world anyway. That involved, turning off social and using it just at certain times during the day, avoiding Facebook like the proverbial plague. Those things have changed because now in the current situation, my tricks aren't working as well as they used to, because this is an incredibly distracting situation that we're in right now. And so what I'm finding that's working for me right now is that I need to be really clear, first of all, with my husband. I don't have kids, so I can't speak to any tricks around that. But being clear about when I need to focus and when I need quiet time, and just communicating within my own household is important. But then being really clear about what my objectives are for the day, because our conditions keep changing seemingly by the hour sometimes. And so that's distracting in itself, where you thought you were going to be working on one thing for the day and now you can't because conditions have changed or assumptions have shifted in some major way. And so my tactic right now is to keep it simple and continue to orient myself to my most important goals for the day. And then I still use my tricks like timers and time blocking to make sure that I stay focused on the tasks that I need to work on. But the other thing that I've found, and I think this is really important, is don't forget your own humanity and take care of yourself. Just give yourself some grace, because just about every facet of our life right now is impacted by this situation. And so if you are distracted from time to time, I think that's normal. And, just that's okay. Just reorient yourself and get back into focus when you can.
Yeah, it's so important, Deb. So there's nothing quite like a crisis to help us discover more about ourselves and our teams and our companies. What have each one of you learned from the COVID-19 epidemic so far, and how can you use that knowledge to create new futures on the other side of this crisis?
Well, I've learned that you don't have to be physically in a facility in order to grow your portfolio. And that has, just 3 months ago, I was looking for how do I get additional space, because we're 35 employees and we're sort of filling out this space. And now we've realized there's a lot of employees that want to continue to work from home. We have some work to do around that, but we also have some employees that want to, they like the group setting here. So the flexibility, I won't be out looking for real estate in the near term, but we will need to adapt some of our business methods and models so that we can incorporate folks who are working remotely and those who are working at the home office here.
At Stonebriar, we've been more of a family too. So we're supporting each other every day while being readily available, helping make sure that business still gets done, and it does. Our leadership team has been together for what seems forever through different iterations throughout its life cycle. And I feel like we keep drawing tighter and we keep staying connected. We support each other and make sure that we're holding people accountable at the same time. So we're driving that needle forward.
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've always thought that constraints can really enhance your creativity. And we're kind of surrounded by them right now. I mean, we're not even allowed to go to the places that we typically would in our personal lives. And so I find that I've dialed up my experimentation because I'm intensely working on business model innovation so that I can be stronger on the other side of this as a business. But then on a personal level, one of the things that I'm really noticing is that even though we're disconnected physically, we're distanced physically, that we can very easily connect because of the power of technology. And I'm finding that we are way more capable than we might realize. And even though it feels like these are super dark days, when we intentionally look for them, we can find so many silver linings in this cloud of crisis. And for me, it's just revealing how awesome people can be. I've been connecting with more people than ever before, just to check in, see how they're doing, trade ideas, share insights on how to get through this. And I'm just finding so many people are choosing to glow and be a light in the midst of so much darkness. And so, I'm finding that even though this is a really tough time, there are positives when we look for them.
Yeah, I've had so many people reach out that I've been wanting to connect with for a long time. And I had a conversation with somebody I haven't seen in 2 years on Friday. And it was just really nice to at least talk through that. I mean, I don't know if that would have happened, whether what's going on with current events or not.
Any final thoughts from any of you?
Well, I think we're going to get through this, and it's going to take us a little while. I think there's going to be some. I think April is going to be an extremely difficult month for all of us, and I think it's important to take care of your employees, because 3 weeks ago the economy was doing just fine. Everything was moving forward. We got to get our arms around that. We got to take care of those people who are sick, and then we've, on the other end of this, the light at the end of the tunnel is going to be a very strong rebound, and I think we're going to find that innovation is going to come about, and it always comes out of bad things. And so, but April, I think, is going to be a very difficult time for the country and for the world. But if we stick together, we will prevail.
I love that. One of the things that I'm thinking about a lot is just choosing my mindset, because when the bad news keeps coming, you just have to guard your own mindset. And I'm not going to have any bad days. That's a choice. The days will get intense, but no bad days. So that's my final thought.
I just feel kind of validated that both my management team and myself have focused on trying to do the best jobs we possibly can. And we've been preparing, not necessarily for what's happening in the marketplace right now, but just being prepared in general. And I feel like that's paid off for us throughout this experience.
Thank you so much, Deb, Dan, and Steve. And thanks again to today's podcast sponsor, IDS.
Thank you, Rita. Thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Rita.